Skeletons creak, zombies grunt, goats say forums and the fallen yell.
Recognition!
Demon hunters hate, think they need a hug, and tormented stingers go. You know, there was a time when players farmed us for voluminous amounts of experience, but you don't see us with a secret level. The disparity in equal treatment is highly and nerfed. Bees say bees, and arcs just suck, and the barb says ooh, ah, ugh. But there's one sound that no one knows. What do the cows say? Moo moo moo, moo moo moo, moo 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 moo, moo 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 moo. What do the cows say? Moo 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 moo, moo 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 moo. What do the cows say? Yup, that just happened. Welcome.
You know, even though I don't get to hear it with the way that our audio set up is, I know what everyone is listening to, so I'm just sitting here behind the screen, just watching the chat, waiting for the moments in the music.
And it's great too because I'm hearing it, but of course it's delayed to the stream, and so you know I'm listening and I'm like, oh man, they're gonna be laughing soon. I hope. I hope.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Wait for it. But yeah, so, you know, there are some things that we were discussing last episode in terms of what's going to happen for the anniversary. What are they going to do? And then we found out. And so I was inspired. I went through and made that intro for all of you. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And we welcome you all to episode 51 of the Westmarch Workshop. And now we wait.
Now we wait.
Yes. And of course that's playing on the fact that, well, we're kind of out of stuff now. We had the Reaper anniversary, we had the D3 anniversary, and we're in the middle of a season now. And what's next? I don't know.
Yeah, not much. Not much.
Yeah, so we're just...
I guess I'm trying to think now. We should be coming up on the 15th anniversary of Diablo II.
Wow, 15 years.
Yeah, but I don't remember what month that is. I think it's going to be later.
Well, last show you said something was January. Was that?
That's the original Diablo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we should be coming up on that because that would be December of 2016 will be the 20-year anniversary of the franchise as a whole.
Wow.
20
years of dungeon crawling.
There we go. Thunderclaw helping us out in chat there. June 30th would be the 15th anniversary of D2.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we'll have something for that one, maybe, possibly.
Maybe. That would be interesting. I'm sure they have to go through and acknowledge it in some way. Wasn't it for the 10th anniversary for D2? They created that little memorial webpage. And they had some of the heroes from Diablo 3 with the heroes of Diablo 2 sitting around a campfire.
That sounds familiar. That was a long time ago, though. I can't tell you what I ate for breakfast yesterday, so... You're asking a lot here.
I know, I'm sorry.
But you're also welcome.
I'm thankful.
There it is.
There we go.
So thankful.
Full circle.
All right. Well, we've gabbed for a little bit, so let's gab some more. Best transition ever. How was your week in gaming? I know you have some exciting news for us.
I do have some exciting news. I found another Ram Deladny's gift. So
swimming in them.
Swimming in them, indeed. Just after, it's I just went and I started leveling a monk as a backup character and just something else to do. And I had a Ina's Reach, a pretty good ancient Ina's Reach, which Lala from the clan went through and gave to me. Nice. And I went and I threw a gift on there because I already had 6 in my stash already. And then I wanted to finish leveling off my Gem of Ease in the 2 greater rifts that it took to get it to level 25. Obviously not from 0 to 25. The last few levels that I needed in order to get it, the last 2 greater rifts, another one dropped.
Wow.
And so it was just one in, one out. So that was good timing, I guess.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it works. You heard it here first. Just use the one that you have, assuming you've even found one in the first place, and another one will drop instantly.
Exactly. It's like 3 day strategy. Just kill off a character in order to get a loot buff for your next one.
These are all proven theories and they work. And if they don't work, then you get a free money back guarantee. But that's 0 times 0, so you know.
Yep. It happened once, so it's scientifically accurate because we tested it in a single study. I'm sure that's how that works.
If it's strong enough evidence, then you only need one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Not too many other things. Still working on trying to perfect the Nats in unhallowed sets. I've gotten my unhallowed sets a little bit better. So I went from critting from 100 million to 180 million. Still, you know, nothing in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely going and working on that. But my big news for this past week is I finally broke the curse, and I won my 40K league.
Yes!
The double Necron team this past weekend. Yep. And it was one of those ones where, for anyone that plays 40K, you'll understand what I'm saying. If you don't play 40K, I guess just tune this out. It was a Maelstrom. We were playing Maelstrom of War missions. It was Cleanse and Control, and it was just like I think the final score was like 17-6, and we were another couple of turns and we would have tabled them if we kind of called it quits at turn 4, because there wasn't any way that they were going to be coming back from the rest of that.
Wow, crushing defeat.
Pretty much. That is actually exactly what it's called, a crushing victory.
Oh, that's like a term in the thing?
Yeah, it's if you score more, if you table your opponent, they concede, or you score more than double their amount of victory points. It's a crushing victory.
Nice.
In just like a friendly game, it doesn't matter, but it's like kind of a statistic that you can use in tournaments or leagues to kind of designate how successful your victory was. So you might be able to be awarded more points for it, like in the league setting.
Ah, very cool. I like that. It's like you not only did you win, but you won so handily that we're going to give you bonus points for just destroying. So actually there's a reason to like not run up the score, because that's kind of a sports term, and we know you don't sports. But, you know, a reason to keep playing well even though you know you kind of have the game in the bag already.
Yeah, pretty much. It is a little bit of that extra incentive there, you know, to either keep fighting even though you know you've lost, you know, because you might be able to score a couple extra points to keep them from getting a crushing, or to just push that little bit extra harder to press your advantage and score those extra points.
Very cool. Well, congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you, sir. I'm definitely happy and ecstatic about it.
Sweet.
And what about yourself? What have you been doing this past week?
Man, I've been a little less Diabloing than usual. I know.
Blasphemy.
I know. I'm going to lose my hardcore lowercase h card pretty soon. So I got to step it up soon. But yeah, I've been mixing it up with some running in real life, which is also a grind in itself. So that grind is starting up, and it's difficult. I have very low gear levels for the run right now.
So I'm trying move speed isn't maxed out yet.
Yeah, I need more Paragon points before I'm, you know, really efficient with the running.
You're still stuck back in the old D2 days. You need to put more points into Vitality, so you up your stamina.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I got to toggle between the run and the walk right now. You know, it's a little difficult. But as many allusions as we can make from Diablo to real life, I did play some actual Diablo, mostly on the DH, still trying to get her going. I actually found an interesting thing. It's an Izakob, which is a weapon that most people usually just look right past, a one-handed crossbow with no real special properties or anything.
I do have to say, when one of those drops, I view it only as a Forgotten Soul.
Yep. And normally that would be the case, but with Unhallowed Essence, I wanted to try a little experiment wherein using a one-hander giving you far more attack speed, seeing how that would help to kind of mitigate hatred needs, and it's actually working out rather well, and especially because you get such a great boost to your generators with the 6-piece of Unhallowed Essence. You're not penalized as heavily for using your generator. It doesn't feel as bad, and you're also using it as a way to get back to just throwing out more multi-shots. So Crawlinth, who's in the clan, he does a ton of math when it comes to the Unhallowed Essence set, and he was kind of throwing around the idea that a one-hander would actually be really good. A one-hand crossbow would be really good for Unhallowed Essence for those purposes exactly. So I'm kind of experimenting with it a little bit, and it seems like the killing speed, I've only mostly messed with it in T6 and then some like high 30 greater rifts, but it seems like it's faster, the killing speed. And the reason I wanted to use this bow is it rolled Ancient, it rolled with 12 max discipline, and then it also had like really good stats across the board, so I was able to just reroll the base damage up. So it kind of made sense to just give it a go, throw a Ramalani on it.
Yeah, definitely. It's like anything that you have that's ancient rolls discipline as a secondary stat is something that you can, I could potentially use this on Unhallowed Essence.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny too, going back and forth, because you're looking at Nats too, and it doesn't need, it doesn't require, I should say, all those extra discipline rolls. So it's kind of funny to almost look at items that are the same, but they have different values according to which set you plan on really min-maxing. But that was mostly it. I made a few level 50 Greater Rift keys for the Bard as well, but like I was telling you before we started the show, I have this really weird kind of no man's land feeling about hardcore right now, because, and I think this is something people have been voicing in general, but T6 is really easy, like really, really easy, to the point where if you farm it for a while, it almost becomes mindless, and to some degree it kind of stops you from continuing to farm it just because you get bored, basically.
Netflix mode.
Yeah, it really is like super Netflix at this point. And so the only other side of the coin to that is then going and doing Greater Rifts, because now you want the challenge and you want to go up. But of course, like the one thing that absolutely puts your character in peril in hardcore, besides disconnects, of course, because disconnects can kill you on any difficulty. Going up in Greater Rift difficulty, going up into the higher Greater Rifts, and 50 is definitely about the level of challenge that my Bard needs right now. So it's kind of this weird like hesitation to do it, because I don't want to die, obviously. I don't want that gear reset, but I also have the goal of wanting to clear it. So it's just, we were saying maybe if there was just that third thing that you could do to kind of mix things up, so that, you didn't feel like you had to do one or the other. Maybe there's that third option. And, bounties could potentially be that, but they're not that right now. And we were throwing out maybe key farming, and the Ubers could be that, but the reward structure isn't there. So, what would you do? What can you do?
Yeah, you don't even want to mention like trying to do Ubers solo, let alone when you have a group doing it. It's still such a huge time-consuming task, and you only get to roll a couple out of it. What was it last time we were going and playing? I think we were farming for like the better part of an hour, and we still only did, I think, maybe like 4 runs.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Between like going for the keys and doing the Ubers at the same time and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, the time on that can only really go up, because you're just fighting that 50% chance to get the key or not. And it seems like it's more often than not you don't get it. So, you're then going to be limited by the amount of time that you have to spend in these huge zones looking for these key wardens. And it just really, the more you do it, the more it just feels like time is, you're like, why am I doing this? Time is slipping away. I could be grinding EXP inside of Greater Rifts. I could be, grinding loot inside of T6 or Greater Rifts as well, blood shards and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I want to say that there was one of the MVPs over on the official community forums was chiming in on that. I want to say it was the TS. I don't remember. It might have been Miss Cheetah. I forget. But they were saying that they would be happy with keys if they just made the simple change, and when you go into the zone, have an indicator pointing at where the key warden is.
That would be great. I would honestly,
it's just,
you still have the 50% chance, but like, hey, at least you know where you're going when you hop into that zone.
You're not going to spend an extra like 6 or 7 minutes trying to clear all of Dolgur just to try and find the key warden, to then be disappointed when he doesn't drop a key.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like at this, it's kind of crazy when the community is like, we'll take anything to make it better at this point. And we have noted in the past that they are doing an adventure mode revamp coming soon. We're not quite sure which patch it'll be a part of. Yes, soon. So we'll see if it's going to be part of 2.3 or a future patch. But that'll be interesting just to see what they do with Ubers. If it is just the same event, but they add better chances at the keys, or it maybe put the keys in other places that you can find them too, just to get more of them out there. I don't know.
Yeah. In Act 5 key warden? I don't know.
What if there was an Act 5 key warden and he had 25% chance to drop all 4 keys?
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I'd farm that. I mean, you just throw that in at the end of your run, right?
Yeah, you clear through everything else, and then you go to Act 5. I guess, given the way that the other ones are set up, I guess the Blood Marsh would be where they would put them because it's the biggest, most aggravating zone to go through. Or
true.
they put him. Oh no, great. All right, they put him inside the Rift Guardian. Or the wormhole guardian, I forget what his name is.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Eternity. So you have to go through like the second largest zone in the game, and then kill the thing, and then go inside probably one of the most aggravating mazes in the game. So that way you can find this one last key warden that has a chance of dropping all of the keys.
Oh my gosh, you just created a new hell, I think. There it is.
Yes. There we go.
You have earned your gold star for the day. I mean, if it's going to be like that, like I would be fine with it being like that, but then it would have to be like a 75% chance to drop all the keys at that point.
Or just, you could probably make it 100% chance to drop all the keys and people still wouldn't do it.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Or would it be, you know what? Oh, I don't know. I think the one thing about that, like if we can talk about this a little bit more, is the lack of reward, right? So it's because it's so night or day. Like you either get a key or you don't. Which seems to be the issue with it, because that's when you feel like you're wasting your time. I feel like if you're always making progress, and that's kind of why like things like the Paragon system, for instance, were introduced, because you were always like, I remember when it was first introduced, the thing they were saying was, okay, maybe that night of farming, you didn't find any great legendaries, you didn't find an upgrade, but you did get experience, and that moves you further to making your character powerful, because with every Paragon level, you're gaining more stats. And that was kind of their way of leveraging, like, well, sometimes the system just doesn't reward you. So in another way of looking at the keys and all that right now, you could kind of give it the same treatment. One thing when I was on the Ink Gamer show, they were talking about was turning keys into fragments instead. So then you would always get some number of fragments, and the RNG would be in how many you got. So, you could get 2, you could get 6, 8, but you needed 10 to make a key or to make a portal or something like that. And so that way you're always accumulating something. And it doesn't feel as bad. Like the only thing is like, oh, I got the low roll of getting stuff, but at least I got stuff.
Yeah, one other thing that I thought of, when we were talking about it before the show, before we went on the pre-show, is it's like the way that it's set up, and it's because it's such a huge time sink, you kind of just run through the zone and you ignore everything. You don't really even kill all that many mobs, and then the Uber bosses themselves don't have that great of a drop chance to drop anything besides some yellows and a whole ton of gold. That you're not really getting anything besides the Hellfire Amulet itself. And even if you were to go and kill mobs, you're not in a rift, so you basically are playing with half the legendary drop chance, and so your chance of finding anything is just going to be really low to begin with.
Right.
What if they, if they maybe, it's like a weird system that I'm thinking of in my head, because it kind of increases the time sink on it and makes it a little redundant. But if you look more at the way the Diablo II event was, where you had to go and you kill the key wardens in the game, it was just a whole bunch of bosses that most people ended up skipping anyways when they were going and replaying through the game. But then you use those keys when you put the keys together. You would then use them to open a portal, and you would get a whole bunch together, so you open the 3 portals to the different realms. But once you actually open the portal, it actually took you to a place where it was a dungeon filled with mobs, and you had to go and hunt around and find the boss, which would then you'd kill, and it would drop an organ, and then you'd use the organs from the 3 zones to then create the portal to Uber Tristram, which you would then kill all of the bosses, and once they were all killed, you'd get the Hellfire Torch as an actual drop. What if you made it something like that, and that the Uber system, instead of just opening a portal and taking you directly into a boss fight, took you into a pseudo-rift? And so that way you had to go and kill things in order to get the Uber to spawn. Or even if it wasn't just a rift, took you into a randomly created dungeon where you had to go and fight through your way, and then at the end of it would be a door and just the second level down into the boss fight itself. just to add in some things to do and just some chances at finding things, and maybe each one of the four rifts have something special about it, or some additional legendary that's maybe unique to it that has a relatively high drop chance.
That could be cool. Or even sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, what if they even introduce some sort of like what is it called? It's like the Infernal Machine event, right? So if you introduce some sort of like Infernal set that every class could use, and it just had like, similar to like a Blackthorns, but different bonuses. And I don't know what those would look like yet, but each portal kind of dropped one piece of that set. And so that way it was another thing, like you're saying, another thing to possibly hunt down and have a reward. So even after you get your Hellfire and it finally rolls well, you still have incentive to keep doing the event over. And maybe you're just targeting specific portals because you just need that one piece ancient, or you just need that one piece in general. Yeah, that's a great idea to incentivize and just give that event a bit more purpose right now.
Yeah, it definitely would be. And there's what is it? Sorry, the way that the text is, Soyez in chat here is actually going through. His counterpoint is, but the Hellfire Amulet is 99% of the time the absolute best DPS amulet in the game. Which is true if you get a good one. The only issue there is how much time do you have to go and farm. Obviously, the top streamers and people hitting up the tops of the leaderboards, they're going to be having a team and devoting a lot of time, like a whole day, to just going and farming this so that they can get one that's rolled well. But for the vast majority of other people that don't have as much time to put into the game, it does become a considerable amount of time you have to put into it to get something out of it. That that time, if you're only going to be playing like a couple hours a day, might be better spent just going and running greater rifts or T6 rifts,
right? And looking into like a Countess Julia or like a Zephyrian or something that is going to give you not maybe the same DPS output, but leveraging another power, another way to make your character powerful. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that's on the mind of players. We've talked about it a couple of times in recent memory. So here's hoping that whatever the revamp is does add either adds more consistency to the Hellfire Amulet as a reward, so that way you could keep the event the same, but just make the reward a little bit more guaranteed to be a reward, or B, do kind of something like Nineball introduced and give the event a bit more purpose via the means of adding things to it, and maybe just maybe the event is made longer in terms of its tail, like you do have to go through these new rifts or whatever, but you're adding reward to it as well.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just one of those. All the reward is back ended. Your payout is at the end of your long and arduous quest, and you can go through and roll something and get life on hit, vitality, and a bunch of stats that you don't really care about. In a good passive, or you would get a bunch of good stats on a crappy passive, like Hot Pursuit or something,
Yeah.
And so that's just pretty much, it's the amount of time and the variability in the RNG just makes it that, obviously it is the best in slot. So if you're going for the leaderboards, it doesn't matter how much time it takes, you're going to invest into going through and getting one of them and making sure that it's good. But, if you're someone, I guess, more like myself, who's a bit more casual in their gameplay, you kind of have to weigh, is this going to be worth my playtime overall?
Yeah things to consider.
Yep.
And I like that wasn't even one of our topics for tonight at all.
Nope. And we are 20 minutes in.
There it is, just digging in. Sometimes a topic takes you.
Yeah, there is one thing though in my week of gaming, if I could go back.
Oh yes.
Digression already, 20 minutes in, that I did want to mention, because I'm not sure where else I would put this in with the rest of the show, but one of the other things that I did, you'll be hearing it Thursday? Yeah, so tomorrow I was following in Leviathan's great footsteps. I was a special guest over on the Shattered Soulstone.
That's right.
Get my episode 83, Nineball Corner Pocket, on Thursday.
That show title, that's awesome.
And the best part is I've been thinking of like going through and just like making my own blog to talk about like non-Diablo stuff, like my Warhammer things and just my general thoughts on gaming life and other crap. And the name that I was thinking for this blog was just Corner Pocket with 9-ball.
Ah,
Yeah,
there it is.
yeah. So that was kind of. It's like, well, damn it, someone else thought of it, so I guess I have to do it.
Now it has to be a thing.
Yep.
Very cool. Oh yeah, and that reminds me too, we did want to call attention to this. I never know which way to point. This way, that
all
way.
Around.
I guess all the way around, honestly.
All around.
We do have the new layout that you guys are witnessing. After 50 episodes, we've finally become ancient. So we have our nice gold borders, and much thanks to Dreadscythe for stepping our game up here. He is just a devil in the background working in the workshop, trying to create all these new and interesting things for us. So many props.
Yep. Shoe shops might have gnomes. We've got Dreadscythe shackled in the back.
And sometimes we throw him a little laptop and say, you can play a little bit of Diablo now.
Yep, every once in a while.
Yes. Let him out the cage. All right, so did you actually want to talk about any of these news items you happen to dig up?
Nah,
skip it.
Nah, let's just keep going and talking about other stuff.
All right. Well, here's an other stuff that's totally not on this list at all. Things are happening abroad, and that means not America. So obviously we know that China is getting their rollout in other regions as well too, but China specifically is getting their rollout of Diablo right now, Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. So, we were just talking about this recently too. NetEase is kind of the distributor, you might call them, over there.
So yeah, it's like their partner for all of their distribution of like all Blizzard games in the Chinese area. They kind of handle it, manage it, and do a lot of the localization and help them out in that side of things.
So yeah, they're kind of like Blizzard in China without being Blizzard, if you will.
Yep.
Because they had a heavy hand in Hearthstone. I know when I was covering a lot of that stuff, they were big into that as well. So there have been a couple of things that people are starting to see now because it's in beta over there, and it may even be released at this point too. But I know last I checked it was beta. We're seeing some things, and on screen right now I'm going to throw up an item which is a Ramaladni's gift, but it's purple and blue maybe as well. Colors are tough.
Yep.
But this is, sorry, I just want to finish the intro on it. This is an article over on Diablo Inc. Gamers, and Flux was just noting that it seems, perhaps, this is something that you can use to put a socket in jewelry.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. We've called it out a couple times on the show. I know it's been like a soapbox point for myself. If a socket is mandatory in the item, it's no longer really an interesting decision. It's now just an indicator of whether an item is garbage or not. And so, finally going and having a gift for jewelry with legendary gems, it kind of seemed that maybe this is something that could have coincided with the legendary gems themselves. But it's, I guess the one caveat on this one is that it only dropped temporarily. It almost seemed as if it was a bug that it was dropping at all, and was quickly removed from the Chinese servers.
So yeah, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. We're not exactly sure, because there are also like things that could be lost in translation, but also, there, like I was mentioning, there's some beta testing at one point before it went to live, and there may still be in beta. So we don't know if what we're seeing is what they're actually getting. And of course, because it is such a different region with their microtransactions, which we touched on a few episodes ago, but we'll definitely talk about again tonight. You never know kind of what's tied directly to the microtransactions versus real world drops, and what we'll possibly be able to get if and when it comes over here. But one thing I did want to mention is with the way that they redesigned a lot of the jewelry in patch 2.2.0, I would almost wonder if an item like this is necessary, because if you look at something like Restraint and Focus, if you look at Convention of Elements, they all come with natural sockets. So it's clear that the developers are thinking about sockets and understanding that it's a very powerful affix on jewelry. I'm wondering then if they're just going to continue to make new items that roll with that natural socket. And I guess the one thing here is, yes, that's cool, but what the Ramaladni's gift, in quotes, for jewelry would do is allow you to get that extra affix. Because it's not just a socket, but it's re-roll the socket off of these naturally occurring ones, put it into, like, I don't know, attack speed or whatever you want, bring the trifecta back, and then put a socket back on. So it's introducing power creep and guaranteeing sockets on the ones that maybe don't roll the natural socket. But just something to kind of throw out there as a counterpoint.
Yeah, I mean that is an interesting observation. I would think that if they did add this item into the game, that they would make it so that way less of the jewelry would, naturally roll with the socket. Just so that way the preferred method would be having no socket, because at that point you're kind of reducing your chances of having the rest of the affixes roll well on the item.
Yep.
Because then you have to if it already comes with the socket, then you have to get 2 out of your 3 affixes perfect, as opposed to maybe only getting 2 out of 4 affixes perfect, and then rolling on your third one. Whether it be crit damage, main stat attack speed, or just elemental damage, or something along those lines.
I mean, that's a great point. I remember there was a pretty large outcry right before Ramalani's gift got introduced, because they had sort of adopted this same concept, was putting sockets naturally rolling onto items as a mandatory roll. So you saw that in the Thunder Fury. You saw it with, I can't even think of other ones right now, because Thunder Fury was kind of the big one at the time. Everyone wanted that weapon, so it had a lot of concentration in the community on why does this thing roll with a socket when you have Ramaladni's now. And yeah, it really drives home that point of you need those other affixes then to be perfect, just so that you can roll that socket into something else and then put it back on with a Ramaladni's. I don't know what we're calling Ramaladni's. I keep meaning to say
Ronald
Happy
McDonald.
Yeah, Ronald McDonald. Happy Meal. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I got the name wrong there. And mispronunciations happen,
Yep, it's okay. Ogchilds will help you.
And then there was another item, too, out of China. You want to take the lead on this one?
Yeah, the stash base?
Yes, the 10 stash.
Yeah, there's going through, or getting the reports in that in China you can actually purchase up to 10 stash spaces. So it's pretty interesting, and it can only be purchased with platinum, which is kind of like the real money currency. Though there's various ways that you actually can earn it in the game, but from what I've seen, there's a cap to it. So even though you don't necessarily have to buy it, it's still something along the lines of like almost 3 months of constant grinding and hitting that platinum cap every day to fully afford buying out all 10 of your stash tabs.
So it's not like a pay to win in a way.
Yeah.
There's still some gameplay that actually has to be done in order to obtain it.
Yep. Yeah, you still have to go through and put in some grinding for it in order to actually get it up there.
That's cool. I wonder, again, this is more grain of salt. And also that page that you guys just saw, I threw it up there just to get some visuals. But that was translated from the Chinese, because it was a page that's originally in Chinese. So any text that you read could have been weirdly translated, so don't take it as fully 100% what it is. But yeah, this could be something that makes its way over here as well. And I know so many players that would be absolutely ecstatic if it did come to America and Europe and all the other regions that aren't going to see these things right away.
I remember it's like when the game first came out, there were people that were going and saying that I want to buy more stash tabs. It's been something that the community has wanted forever, I guess. Since the game's launch. I'm sure probably even before that.
Seriously, though.
It's just like the type of microtransactions that you'd be comfortable with as a player in order to, I guess, to try and like support a game that's that's the main form of playing, is always online on free servers with free content patches. It's kind of like finding some way of actually kind of like giving back besides just box sales in order to make sure that you can continue to have the game keep going. So I guess maybe not as big of a concern just with how financially successful Diablo has been.
Right. And I think, you have to remember when we're talking about sales too. They, for the first time, were able to really leverage the console, and they have so much extra influx of cash from that. I mean, I think no one can dispute that it was wildly successful on console, just from the emails that we've gotten from people loving it, the community, just in general on Twitter and things like that, or even in the forums. The community or the console forums are crazy busy on the official forums. I see Grimmiku in there all the time answering questions. So it's obviously a healthy community over there of players. And yeah, that's a lot of money that's coming in. So to some degree, you can kind of say that ended up being the replacement for the auction house. But of course, it's a limited cash flow because you can only do so much with that as you do with the PC, because at some point they're going to line up. So you can only sell to them what we already have, basically. So yeah, it does beg the question of, are they concerned about a cash flow for the future when the game is no longer being worked on, and maybe Diablo 4 is in the pipeline or whatever, and they still want to keep the servers up to have people just playing Diablo? Are they gonna pay for it off of the success of Hearthstone, off of the success of Heroes? I don't feel like budgets would change hands that much. I mean, it is one company, but it is departmentalized in terms of the teams. So
yeah, all I can go and look back on is Diablo 2 is still supported.
It's true. It is true. So I don't know. It's just a weird. It kind of resonates, and Flux said this recently too. It resonates weird with me when there's an outcry of people that want to buy something. So basically, the demand is already there before the supply is even like a dream or like a developed thing. So at what, I guess it's just begging the question of why would you not do it?
It is a very interesting question, and you have I want to say I don't know how many people, but it seems to be a lot that are asking that they would be willing to buy stash space. And what is it that's going and holding them back from doing it? It really is. It is a big question. Why not do it?
Yeah, unless it's the only thing I can think of at this point, and we kind of touch on it every episode now, is expansion. So maybe there are some things that back in the day when they were like, here's our grand scheme for Diablo 3, we want to have the base game and hopefully it releases well, and then we saw what happened and they had to patch it and whatnot, and then we released D3X1, and we're going to add some features, a new class, a new zone, more character spaces, more stash tabs. I mean, I don't know how much of this they had planned out ahead of time, so this could all just be for naught. Who knows if it was even a thing. But maybe they were like, okay, so we're going to eventually get to 5 stash tabs for everyone. And then in D3X2, the second expansion, we're going to increase it to 8 or 9 or 10. Who knows? So maybe, having a microtransaction thing come in ahead of that schedule would kind of spoil some of the features they had reserved for future expansion.
Yeah. I guess this one might be a little bit of a question for some people in chat there, but they kind of did it with Reaper of Souls. If you bought the collector's edition or the digital deluxe, you got 2 free character slots. So you could actually have 2 additional characters, and if you're using them as mules, just a little bit extra, kind of pseudo stash space there. Is there anyone here that bought the digital edition solely for that?
Yeah, that actually would be interesting, because that essentially was almost like a microtransactions test, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those ones that, in addition to getting all the nice little cosmetic benefits, you actually got a pretty big boon in having 2 additional character slots. And I know that's something that I'm using. I've used up all of my character slots, and in order to roll this new monk, I had to delete one of my old softcore characters that I was holding on to for nostalgia. we already have 4 people here in chat going through and saying that was the reason they bought the digital deluxe edition. So
there you go.
There you go. 10% of our viewers right now are already going and saying that yes, that is the reason why I did it.
Yep, and more of them are pouring in as we speak. So
yeah, so there you go.
I mean, it's more evidence to support kind of what we were just talking about, right? People are ready and willing to throw money at the screen for this stuff. Why not make it? If you build it, they will come. They've already said they will come.
Yeah. That they are.
It's at this point, all you need is a set up a little thing for pre-orders, and I think people would be like, I want 20 stash spaces, I want 50,
yeah,
it's ready to spend. So we'll see. I don't know. I actually did want to loop in. We're trying something a little different this time around because we got a ton of feedback from you guys, by the way. So thank you for being super active. I guess you guys are just kind of digging in at this point, and now you have all your questions or things to share, which is awesome. But we got one from a longtime listener that hadn't written in quite some time. His name is Jahan, and he wrote in to say that he's been able to catch up now that he's officially moved into Seoul, South Korea. Last time he was listening, it was Archon's last show, so quite some time ago.
A little while.
Yeah. So talk about nostalgia too, right?
Yeah.
And he says he's been trying to find the D3 community over there, and it doesn't seem to be very lively. He knows it exists, but he just can't find it. He says he goes to the PC cafes, and he's just looking over people's shoulders to see what they're playing. A lot of MMOs, FPS, a lot of League, a lot of WoW. And he says popular Korean MMOs and first-player shooters as well. So he was playing his Diablo 3. He's the only one, and people are like, "People still play that game? What are you doing?" And he's like, "More than you know, play." And so he says he was catching up on our episodes, and he just got to one where we're talking about Asia and how they're getting the microtransactions. And he says he actually has now one character on the American, or one account on the American servers, and then one in the Asian server as well. So he's hopefully going to be able to test for us some of those things that we were talking about, and maybe getting half of the story just from these translated sources and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to hearing from him as that scene develops over there, as the rollout develops. And yeah, if anyone else too is in any of these regions that we often talk about, feel free to send in some feedback. Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com. We'd love to hear kind of what you're observing in microtransaction worlds, and if it's catching on as much as we hope it is, so that they have no choice but to bring it to everywhere else.
Yeah, I definitely, and also I just love hearing from people in different parts of the world. We definitely get a lot of feedback from our European listeners. Not so much from the Asia side of things. So definitely love hearing your feedback and thoughts, and kind of the things that you see. Because something else that he points out when he talks with people about it is that it's like specifically referred to as that old game in quotations. So it seems, I guess, that maybe that's like just like a cultural thing of how you refer to something.
It could speak to the speed of how things move over there too. Like if they're just having a ton of games developed month to month, then Diablo could really be an old game. Because think about the last time it got an official update or whatever, official release was back in March 2014. So
yeah.
Or 3 years ago if you want to go way back to the base. So like, is it actually an old game because it's 3 years since its official release? Like, and I mean I feel like that's also an uninformed way of looking at it, because all the patches and things kind of are like real, almost content DLC type things added to it, which I know is part of the structure over there as well too. Selling and releasing features and extra additional content to their games.
Yeah. No, because that is definitely one of those things that I guess we probably should have pointed out if you missed it in some of the previous episodes of the show. Like in China, the reason why they're having those microtransactions is because the game is free to play. Right. You either have it downloaded on your computer, or what's what more people do over there is you don't necessarily have your own PC. You go to, like he was mentioning, one of these PC cafes, and you kind of just log on because they have the game already installed. You just log on, play. And you just, with your account, you can just pick the game that you want and go and play it. So you don't actually have to buy it. You can just play. They have I think it has a premium version where it's like a monthly subscription, and you get the platinum and other special perks for going and playing it. Otherwise, you can just, pay money to buy platinum to get the stash space, or to buy the character portraits and other things of that nature.
Yeah, definitely good to point out. So yeah, that's why we kind of want to hear from all these different corners of the world too, because we understand that gaming culture definitely varies from country to country, region to region. So it's always interesting, kind of widen our perspective, because we only really know what we experience. But speaking of buying and selling in games and Diablo, I don't know. I wanted to make that more interesting than I could.
It was good.
Yeah, thanks. You alerted me to a sale.
Yes, I don't know how much longer that is going to go on. but GameStop currently has Reaper of Souls on sale for $20. It's for the PC version, so if for some reason you're listening to this show and you don't yet have it, more than likely it'll be something that you're doing for someone that you know that does not listen to the show and yet does not yet has not yet felt the love of the Reaper of Souls. You can pick it up for only $20. This is in the U.S., of course. But yeah, this sale I think started on Sunday and should probably last until Saturday. But they haven't really said how long the sale is on for, so I don't know.
So sooner than later, you should act on this. And yeah, it looks like you can't download it. It's just a physical version that you would be buying. So yeah, if you have a friend that you want to rope them into playing with you, maybe hop in on Season 3, get some new blood into your seasonal play. And this is a perfect opportunity to introduce them to the sweet, sweet world of killing things and getting loot for it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Which does remind me, there was that interesting conversation that happened on Reddit back for the anniversary buff. That apparently there was a lot of harsh things being said in that thread about. There's this one person that is going on about like the non-Reaper of Souls community in the game. Apparently one of those that kind of exists, and that there's a movement to, for whatever reason, not purchase Reaper of Souls and just continue to play base Diablo 3.
I can't even imagine what that world is like.
I don't know.
Like in my head, I can't think of what things they don't have.
Yeah.
In the expanded version.
Yeah, but apparently the anniversary buff did apply to the base game. You didn't have to have Reaper of Souls in order to play and experience it.
Yeah, so that's cool. That's cool that they did at least. They were cognizant enough to make it across, all owners of Diablo 3. Yeah, it's it's funny. I feel like again, like if you build it, people will come. Like maybe there was just some guy who was like, I refuse to expand. I like the game the way it is, and who's coming with me? And galvanized this like 20 group of people. And that's just me being silly about like maybe it's more than 20 people, but who knows? For whatever reason too. Like obviously monetary concerns and whatnot. So that's why we try and highlight some of these sales to help people out if they can't shuck out the 40. Maybe you can afford the 20 instead. But yeah, there are people for whatever reason that just either can't or won't expand, and so it is an interesting dichotomy between the two.
And yeah, even though it kind of was answered already, to answer the question in chat, that is for Reaper of Souls only. They would have to have the base game.
Yes.
Yes.
This is true. But speaking of transitions, I'm transitioning now into patch 2.2.1, and I actually should have just said, yeah.
We're sitting here talking about the anniversary, and you're gonna go on to patch 2.2.1.
Oh, would you like to talk about the anniversary?
That's what I thought you were gonna do. It's like, okay, let's transition into this other one. We're kind of leading into it, and then it's just like,
all right,
okay, we're talking about 1, we're talking about 2, now we're talking about 3, so let's obviously go to 5.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
I like skipping things. No, all right. Pretend, rewind. You never heard any of this last 40 seconds of the podcast or so. So, hey, talking about the anniversary, what if we skip ahead and go ahead and talk about the anniversary? I don't know. But cows. Moo.
Yes,
moo.
cows.
Moo, moo,
cows. So, we, going off of our last show, we had the anniversary buff is here. And if you're listening to this on iTunes and Stitcher, it might already be gone.
Which is sad.
Though, is it? Is it really?
I mean, we'll talk about that, right?
Yeah, it's one of those ones. Obviously, we were speculating on what it could be, what they might do, and they completely threw us for a loop.
Sure did.
We were not expecting this one, to say the least. We went through and we got a special Cowgoblin. Yeah, Cowblin. I think I saw it referred to in the clan a couple times as a Cowblin.
I like that.
Yep. Yeah. So if you didn't get to experience it, or you have not yet experienced it, you can, while going out in just regular adventure mode, you can find a cow or goblin-like cow called Herald of the Queen, which when you kill will open up a portal to the not cow level.
That's right.
And of course, what would you expect to find in not the cow level? Cows.
All the cows.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's a Fields of Misery-like map that they retuned, I guess, to just be filled with tons of cows. Also included in there are tons and tons of chests. You have regular chests, resplendent chests, and then there's even an event wherein the Ghost of the Cow King just summons up 1 billion cows, give or take a billion or so, to come and kill you. And once you kill all of them, you get 4 radiant chests, so it's just tons and tons of chests. And there are also a lot of, whatchamacallums, shrines.
Yeah, tons of shrines.
Tons of shrines.
Tons of everything in there. But it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun from the nostalgic, aspect of it. The first time going in is just squealing with joy. Oh, look at all the cows. There's a cow queen, as kind of like the rift guardian, as it were, of this little kind of like cowish rift. But like the second time through, it was just like, well, that was fun.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a lot to it. The density was really high, and I'm only about Paragon 330, and I was gaining a level every time we went in there. So the experience also seemed to have been ramped up a little bit inside those rifts, or that not cow level. But other than that, there wasn't really a lot going on. I think I found I've done it 4 times. I found 1 legendary. And it just, it was just kind of like, it's like this nostalgic thing that you can go through and have fun with it, but it wasn't really a community buff. There's no like long-term benefit that you can get from it. It was really just there for nostalgia.
And that is the rub right there. So before I hop on that point, I just want to say the images that you guys just saw were submitted from Wildcat Kelly. She went through and very, very luckily for us, because we actually didn't have any images prepped of it, was noting that she wasn't sure if we had, and if anyone had sent in images or anything like that. So she kind of wanted to share her experience with us in terms of her going through and finding it and clearing it out, and just decided to throw those up. We also did get 2 videos, though. I know JR grabbed a video of going through the cow level. So if you want to see it in real time, for whatever reason you didn't get to it, or you just kind of want to relive the nostalgia days after it's gone, you can check those videos out. I also created one as well too. But all of that said, yeah, I think Nineball really hit the nail on the head when he said it's a community event, not a community buff. And I think that was kind of the thing that felt like it rubbed people the wrong way, maybe. I know, and that's not to say that it wasn't cool, right? Like, I think for the purposes of nostalgia, for bringing back a lot of the feels, I think everyone loved it. When it came to the actual like benefits of being in there, and especially of seeing it more than once, because once you saw it the first time, there was so much novelty in it. Like, oh man, this is so cool. You hover over the portal and you're reading the whole thing, and it's like, people will say that it's a lie if you talk about you saw this or whatever. Really cool stuff. But after a while, it didn't really matter if you found it or not, because like Nimble was saying, there weren't any real buffed drop rates inside of there. And so in a way, it almost reminds me of when people were complaining about the Rainbow Goblin leading you to Whimsydale, because it was almost like a departure from, it was almost like taking a step back and not making progress on whatever you were originally trying to do when you just came across this goblin, because you weren't going to get anything special out of Whimsydale outside of like, maybe that one chance you get a Spectrum or a hamburger or something. Because the rates weren't any better inside of there, so there's really no reason to go through that portal. And this kind of took the place of that for the short moment in time that it will be here. And we should know it was instituted May 15th, which of course coincided with the 3-year anniversary, and it will be finished up May 21st. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it seemed like it didn't, and talking about the duration of it, it didn't seem like it needed to be that long if it was just going to be kind of a special event. Maybe just have it Friday and the weekend.
I don't know. I can definitely see it as going and lasting a full week. There's already been a couple people in chat that still have yet to go through and come across it. People have, different play styles, different days that they have off to actually dedicate to the game. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not too bad that it lasted a week. But like you were saying, it's not to say that this event wasn't cool. It was. The first time in there is awesome. And that I can't. I don't want to sound too negative because it was a fun
Yeah,
experience, the first time.
definitely.
But then there wasn't really much of a point to go and do it again. So it was one of those. I guess maybe if they had done this alongside of like a 50 or 100% XP buff, so that way you had both running at the same time, it might have been, I guess, might have seemed more worthwhile. But otherwise, it did just kind of feel like it's a nice kind of like little gimmicky thing to relive some nostalgic moments of Diablo history, and that was kind of about it because we've not had too many community buffs this year so far.
Right, and I guess that's kind of the, because you're right in talking about like having the best amount of chances for every type of player to see it. Because yeah, you're right that not everyone had maybe the weekend squared away to hop in and try this thing or search for it. And maybe it's going to be like their weeknight. They have like a Tuesday night clan meetup, and they have all their friends go and farm the bounties and try and find this thing or whatever. So yeah, if it was just the weekend, then you're kind of SOL. I guess the reason I brought that up was just because it feels like the longer it lingers, the more it starts to like
Where
irk. Yeah, the more it starts to irk me a little bit because
mm-hmm.
it's kind of piggybacking on what you just said, which is piggybacking on what I just said, which is just the feeling that we're having in general. It is great, but that first time, and then after that, you're like, every time you almost like see it again, you're like, man, this thing, man, they could have done so much more with it. So it kind of just keeps reminding you. And I guess the reason I say I would have liked to see it as just a few days, because then you can still do an anniversary week, and then maybe you institute a buff on Monday or two. Like, have you ever played Final Fantasy Dissidia on the PSP?
Yeah,
Yeah.
ever so slightly.
That game was awesome, and
Yeah.
one of the things that it did was every day there was a different buff, if you recall.
Yep.
So you would get
farm different things.
yes, yeah, you could get like more experience, of course, and then I think one was like for more gil, one was more AP or more like ability stuff or whatever,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. And I almost wanted it to kind of look that way, like maybe one day you're getting more experience, and the next day more blood shards, and the next day, like, I don't know. So even if you're missing one day, like all of those things by themselves maybe don't add up to as much. You might be a little sadder if you miss like blood shards versus experience, depending on the kind of player that you are.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They could have just been more.
Yeah. That's actually interesting because that's something that a lot of free to play games do. Just like off the top of my head, two games that I play, the Star Trek Online and the Final Fantasy Record Keeper, they have kind of like daily events that go on that you can either have increased bonuses to like crafting, or you can run this special event in order to get better crafting materials, or you get more like ability orbs, or you get better experience. It's like different things that you can go and farm, though they normally follow a schedule. So Mondays will always be this, and Tuesdays will always be that. You might have a wild card day, come up every once in a while. It's just something that you can kind of like go and like kind of focus farm. I don't know if that would work well with Diablo, especially since it's still an evolving game. We might be having the expansion, so there might be new stuff coming on, but it could be something to look forward to for the future. If and when the Diablo 3 development kind of wraps up and they start looking more at Diablo 4.
Mm. Yeah, I do remember at one point, I think someone even mentioned it in like one of those tavern talks or whatever they used to be before they were tavern talks, where they got the devs and could just ask questions. Someone was asking about things like dailies, or just maybe not even like daily quests, but just things that would occur in the game, even back to like holidays and stuff. If they would do things around that, and the pushback on it seems to be kind of like, it's a cool idea, but it's not something that we're really going to pursue. And now we kind of are seeing a little bit more swinging to the other side. Now we have these anniversary celebrations and whatnot, so it could be in the future that they do something. I guess the one, so now to play devil's advocate too, is like if you make it a daily bonus, is it even a bonus anymore? Because it's just like a daily expectation, if you will. Like, okay, on my Mondays I'm going to do this. On my Tuesdays I might skip it because I don't care about that one. Wednesdays I'll go for this. But to play devil's advocate, or whatever the third part of that would be, I kind of like the idea of having it because it almost directs your gameplay. So if there are enough things to do between like greater rifts, bounties, regular rifts, and whatever else they could add, Ubers, etc. Like maybe one day they do experience, so you're going to spend more of your time that day inside of greater rifts because you can just like multiply your multipliers. The next day they do double key fragments. I mean, this probably won't be the thing because apparently those are going away. So then you would do more bounties that day because then you're just kind of doubling the benefit of doing them. So you don't have to do them as often on the non like double rift fragment days. So on and so forth. So it kind of directs, it gives a purpose to your gameplay when you log in. You say, oh, there's this buff and now I'm going to go do that. And you know, my Wednesday is going to be my crafting day because I get bonuses on crafting, etc.
Yeah. Or, you know, it's like you have, what is it? You know, something like blue items disenchant into double the amount of arcane dust, you know, on Thursdays or something along those lines.
It's gonna be crazy. I could definitely, I could see the devs on the other side being like, but then it almost forces players to play a certain way or encourages a certain type of behavior because if you're
I'm not going to do any bounties until Tuesday.
Exactly, right?
I can definitely go and see that.
Yeah, or like I feel penalized whenever I disenchant a blue that's not blue enchant times 2 day or whatever.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's an imperfect idea, but it is an idea that could be iterated on. And it all kind of boils back to I just wish I don't even dislike the cow thing. You know, again to kind of put that out there, but I wish that they just did more with it. Like, why doesn't in the same way that the vault, every time you kill Greed, she drops at least, or the chest drops at least 2 legendaries. Like, why doesn't the Cow Queen have a guaranteed chance to drop 2 legendaries? It just seemed like it was kind of overlooked a little bit.
Yeah. Or, you know, maybe they could do something along the lines instead of, you know, like, on this day it increases the reward from doing this type thing. If they could do it more of like you have a special event rifts. Like, what if you had, on, say, Tuesdays, you had a chance that, you know, goblins or just while doing bounties, you had a chance to have a key for a blue rift, you know, drop. And so when you went into this blue rift, it dropped nothing but arcane dust.
It sounds awesome.
You know, just like, you know, just something like little things like that of just, you know, you go through and you have it where different days have like an actual like a fully different event, not like a bonus to something pre-existing, so that way you feel penalized for doing it when it's not that day, but just, you know, or you could, for something that's something that you could actually stretch it out and have like a monthly thing, you know, so that way, you know, this whole week it drops these special like rift keys that will open up to this special event rift, you know, and you could do something like that. Like the cows, they could be a special event that you get every couple of months, you know, and just, it's like you go through and you do it and you'll have, after completing a rift, it has a chance of dropping a key. You can use like the Nephilim monument that will unlock the cow rift for you.
I do really like that idea because like you're saying, it doesn't come with the penalty of like, oh, I shouldn't engage in this behavior because it's not buffed at this moment. It just kind of adds extra, which is always good.
Yeah.
And this also leads into, you know, kind of continuing our half news, half feedback segment thing that we're doing. Leads into a couple of emails that we did get from people talking about their Diablo memories, because we did ask last episode if anyone had like thoughts about some memorable stuff from the base game, from playing vanilla, if they would write in and talk about it, highlight it. So we have a little folder that we sectioned off here. I'm going to grab Lala's because she actually mentioned in her PS to this one that she was hoping that the cow rift would kind of just stay as a thing and maybe make it a really rare occurrence to see a cowblin or cow goblin or whatever we're calling it at this point.
I would love it.
It'd be cool because then at that point it kind of does go back to that you know, rare occurrence of, hey, I'm doing bounties. Whoa, cow! Oh yeah, the cow level, nice.
Yeah, that would definitely be one of those ones, because I've actually found myself when I've come across one of the rainbow goblins, you know, it's all, you know, I might only like farm bounties like once a month or something along those lines, and it could be, you know, oh, I've not seen a rainbow goblin in like 3 months. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it.
Exactly. Yeah, just to like switch it up to see something different, and it does. It's almost like what's that? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So when you haven't seen it in a long time, you kind of do want to hop back in there. But yeah, just to go through and some of the things that Lala was talking about from her experience in Diablo 3 vanilla, as we like to call it. We're fighting the Shattered Soulstone. They want to call it chocolate. We're sticking to vanilla.
Yeah, I always say classic.
I like classic too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. One of the first things she was talking about was, oh yeah, I remember this. The using one with everything for monks made auction house shopping really difficult for monks, just because you had to have an item with the exact what's it called, resistance that you were trying to stack, and so you were therefore only limited to certain items. And I remember, I think there was even a time where you couldn't quite search, like they kept adding to the search functions for going through the auction house. I don't even think at one point you could search for a resistance, so it made it like you had to fan through a lot of stuff just to get what you needed, and then you had to hope it had good rolls, and you had to hope you could afford it and all that stuff. So she said that she actually hated the feeling that one time she actually got an upgrade and then she couldn't use it because it didn't have the right resistance on her. And this is like when I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, just take it to the Enchantress. Just re-roll that. This is like pre-Enchantress.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, it's a complete miss for her. So she said she didn't want to feel that ever again. So she's just stopped using one with everything that day, which is a really strong response to that. And obviously probably one of the reasons why it needed to be changed and did eventually get changed. Another thing she was talking about was trying to farm the achievement for the ancient device, the one that's in the Desolate Sands. And she was stuck at 9 out of 10 for like ever and ever and ever. And even though she farmed it like 2 to 3 hours per day, Lala is like an achievement hunter, by the way. If you guys aren't familiar with her, she writes in every now and again.
Yep.
She loves her achievements. She was actually the one who wrote in last show to kind of discuss the feeling on season 3 achievements and the changes that happened there. So yeah, she's doing the Wheel of Misfortune and just having a hell of a time getting that last one. So that's another memory there. Let's see. Favorite moment was getting a legendary from the guy in the Fields of Slaughter. I really like this story coming out from her.
Yeah.
There's that guy who, if you click on him, he's like, oh, I'm dying. Take this and like fight the demons for me or whatever. And he'll like throw you a blue item. And she's like yelling at him like, no wonder you died, bro. You're using like magical items. This is Inferno. Come on. Which I love, just like that, getting in the head of it really. Like, yeah, you really should be using something a little bit better here. But one time she did it, he actually threw out a legendary item, and she said it was like, wasn't that good of an item, but it was just a cool moment because
it was a legendary item in Classic, so obviously it was nothing more than a brimstone.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, there are other stories here too. We don't want to languish too long. I definitely appreciate the level of detail and thought that went into all these anniversary ones, but we do want to keep the show rolling, so I just wanted to highlight a few of those there.
Yeah, what is it? There was also, we had another one from Sebastian. We got another person going through and emailing us in from internationally. I believe this one is coming to us from the Canada, north of the border.
Yeah, nice.
And he just wanted to go through and chime in that he had some great experiences. That he had his alarm set to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and when he woke up, it was Error 37. And he only had to wait 1 hour before he was able to go through and log in at 4 a.m. He went and he rolled a barb, and it's just that the biggest thing that he remembers was having to run away. His Inferno was just hard.
Oh, yeah.
Really hard. And that you had to fight like white mobs one-on-one. And so it just took a lot of positioning and a lot of practice in order to go through and do it. And then, of course, going through and saying that like his thing that he hated was also when mobs ran away and into other mobs. And so his big hurrah was patch 0.3, where different enemies ran away less, so that way it wouldn't be as big of a problem for him.
Yeah, when this one came in, I had all my feels triggered because, man, I remember I had a barb to start things out in vanilla, and it was the first and last time my barb had a shield on, which is just crazy to think about. But I just remember so much like spamming revenge. Like that was like one of the best skills you could have because it allowed you to kind of stay in melee range with packs and get some healing. But so many of these things, yeah, it was hard to be a barb. It was hard to be melee in general. And I remember they kept doing things to make melee a more pleasant experience, but it took a while before you could really stand the hits, and obviously the Inferno nerf eventually made it better.
Mm-hmm. And so there's some of those people going through and saying, a barb running away. You did not play a melee class at the beginning of Diablo III, apparently. Act 2 was death.
The bees shooting bees.
It wasn't even the bees, just trying to get through the anything in like Act 2 Inferno on a melee class.
It's true. Yeah, even like the what are they? The Lacuni Prowlers, the one that jumps at you, like it's almost like instant death. It was a hard time.
They're invincible while they're jumping at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've changed it. That was one of the changes that they made, because back in Classic, you actually couldn't do anything to them. Now you can hit them; they just won't die. They'll stay at 1 health until they complete the attack.
Yeah,
but back then you couldn't even hurt them.
It was hard, to say the least. It was hard.
Oh, ever so slightly. Ever so slightly.
And then we did get another one too. This one's actually just from Georgios. I forgot to mention this while we were talking about the Cal level. He was mentioning that he loved it. He was super stoked about not the Cal level, getting in there, and he was playing on his Whirlwind Barbarian, and he killed one mob that dropped both a focus and a restraint for him. So that's kind of awesome. Really cool moment there. And he was asking for some advice for his barb. And he did say he's playing Whirlwind Barb. Unfortunately, focus and restraint don't factor too highly into that build right now. What you could do, I know Mikey was trying this for a while too, mostly in T6, I think. He put Bash back on his bar. He was using Bash as kind of like an activator, because you're pretty much always getting the spender side of it with Whirlwind. Just using Bash against like elites, hitting them with Bash real quick, and then you get the multiplied damage, and you can kind of spin through elites super fast. But for the most part, we haven't seen another use for them just yet. Probably going to take another build or so. And then I can actually just go ahead and grab Mad Hamsters to round this out too. He had anniversary thoughts. And this was actually, he submitted these back when we ran our contest for talking about Reaper of Souls anniversaries, because this kind of edged right at the edge of edged at the edge. Yeah, that makes sense.
So edgy.
Very edgy email. It was right at the precipice, there's a better word, of transitioning from vanilla to Reaper of Souls. And he was talking about how at the end of days for patch 1.0.8, a lot of what people were doing were crypt runs, and he had a group that was dedicated to it, like prepping. There was a person that would actually prep the crypt and get all the wretched mothers to spew out their zombies and whatnot. Another person was going around and getting everything set up at the door of the crypt, so that you would all just kind of like go in, kill everything in the crypt, you would exit the door, and everything in the Fields of Misery would be pulled right there. So it was just huge experience runs, and that was how they were trying to get their Paragon 100s back when that was the limit.
And you'd get all the elites prepped in the Festering Woods.
Yes, yeah.
So they were right there at the zone, and so you could go in, quickly get all your stacks of Nethil and Valor.
That's right, yeah, because NV was still a thing back then, too. Yeah, so craziness. And then he had another story, which I really liked, because he has kids, and so he said he was playing with one of his sons one time. He was playing, Mad Hamster was playing a DH, and his son was playing a Barb. And then in Act 2, he found an Immortal King belt, so he gave it to his son. And then a few minutes later, his son found a Nat's ring, and he gave it to him. So this is, of course, in the days of non-smart loot, I believe. He didn't give a timeline on this one, but it might have been before patch 2.0. And so, of course, you could find items for other classes and things like that. You still can now, but it's a little bit less of a chance for it. So it's just really cool to, have those moments where it's like, oh, yeah, you help me, I help you. And it's kind of cool that the RNG worked out, that they could give one to each other.
Yep.
Good feels.
All the feels. Oh. I guess now we can talk about patch 2.2.1.
Oh, now you want to talk about patch 2.2.1.
Yep, now I will allow it.
All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about it. Yesterday, Tuesday, May 19th, a very, very small patch hit the words are hard today, by the way, people. I'm sorry. A very small patch hit the servers, and it mostly consisted of bug fixes. There are a couple of good things in here, of course. For anyone that plays with a barb, their dust devils were given less visual noise, so now you can actually see what's going to kill you, or potentially kill you. I know my hardcore friends will be happy that they can see Frozen again. A couple of other... Yeah, very important. A couple of other quick fixes. This is a very short patch, so I'll go ahead and read through them all. There was a bug fix with monks that prevented channeling pylon from removing the cost of dashing strike with the Raiment of 1,000 Storms set equipped, so that should operate a little bit more fluidly now, which is good. More dashing strikes for every monk. There were bug fixes in items. Belts can now roll their bonus armor as an affix, which is good. Fixed an issue that could prevent Locust Swarm from refreshing the duration of Zunimos' 6-set bonus. And they also fixed an issue that allowed players to equip and use unidentified legendary potions. I wonder how that worked.
I guess there was just something that allowed you to equip an unidentified potion.
9-ball with science, folks. But I'm wondering, like, did it actually give you the bonus of the legendary potion that it was supposed to be when you identified it?
I guess I don't know much about this bug, so I don't know whether it was just like maybe it was only healing you for the base 60% and not giving you any effects from it.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I don't know either. I'm just curious. I'm very curious about that because actually I feel like this came up maybe in clan chat a few days ago, but we were talking about the fact that, you know, when do items get their properties? And someone was wondering, is it at the moment of identification or the moment of drop? And if you recall, there was actually that moment in a very small window when people were trading items because they could, like, go and figure out what the item was actually going to be before it was ID'd. So they're trading unID'd items as if they were just a slew of, like, here's 20 unID'd storm shields. But they were saving the ones that they knew were actually going to be ID'd and rolled well because items have their affixes when they drop. Not when you ID them. So people found a way to manipulate the code or whatever. I don't know. I can't even recall how it happened.
So they basically, it was something that was allowing them to read the item before it was identified.
So they were saving all the best ones and just literally, like, giving people crap because they knew they weren't going to be missing out on selling this item for maybe less of what it would be if they were to ID really well. They're basically guaranteeing value on every trade that they were making. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. It is interesting. I know that's a bug that's existed, you know, since Diablo II. Because you would, I remember going and following around a bot, doing like Bale runs, or it was doing Bale and Mephisto runs, and so there weren't a lot of people going and doing it. And there were certain uniques that it wouldn't pick up, and I was thinking, like, why is it going and just leaving this on the ground? You know, and so I'll go and I'll pick it up and identify it, and then it is like minimum stats and just like garbage. Like, that's why. As it was apparent, you know, because in D2 is the same thing. You could read what the item was before it was identified.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Oh boy, talk about nostalgia.
Yep.
A couple more bug fixes in this small patch. Josh Mascara, the Rift Guardian, not the man himself, can now drop loot, because that was one thing that was happening when you found him in Rifts. He was just dying and then dropping like one blue item, not even a Rift key fragment, or sorry, a Greater Rift key fragment or anything like that. So he'll actually have a loot table now, which is good. Similar to regular Rift Guardians.
Yep. We don't yet know if Josh Masquera, the actual person, has had that bug fixed. You'll probably have to wait till BlizzCon, so that way you can see if he drops loot or not.
Just like poking him. It's like, come on, man. Is this bug fixed yet or what?
I need to know.
Let's see. There was also a fix to the Butcher and Man Carver, which is like the Butcher equivalent inside of Rifts. And the Spear attack before was able to be reflected or slowed. So now they can't be, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that that's a bug. It's actually, and this is another thing too. Sorry, go
That's one
ahead.
of those ones that I guess would be a bug is if you're able to do it. Like just imagine getting the spear caught in a slow time. So now he's stuck in that animation of the spear going out.
Hmm.
And if that's what I'm thinking that how it worked, it'd be stuck in the animation, and he's going to be sitting there for like 20 seconds not doing anything while the spear is going out and coming back.
I guess I could see that. It's weird because the things that they count as like missiles versus not, so like missile dampening affecting them or the slow time bubbles, for instance. Some things like seem very odd with that aren't affected. Because for instance, multi-shot is not affected, evasive fire is not affected, but then tornadoes from my barbed whirlwinding are affected.
Or elemental arrow, frost arrow. The original shot is affected, but the 10 shots that break off from it are not.
Yeah. Some peculiar oddities. So that's why I was like, I wonder if that. Well, I mean, they did consider it a bug, but I'm like, I wonder why, because some things seem like they were supposed to be slowed and some things not.
And I just want to say something for the chat right now. We are not in any way, shape, or form advocating that you should go around BlizzCon poking and annoying Josh in any way, shape, or form. And if you go through and do it, we hold no responsibility whatsoever. So don't mention us in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
And thank you.
Good tag to put on that.
Yep.
What else? There were issues that prevented players with illusory boots from passing through Orlash's walls. Those new walls that he can make in his rework of being one of the most terrifying Rift Guardians ever. So now you can walk through those walls, which is good, because that's definitely a very quick way to die when you get trapped in there. Oh, this did go in this patch. Awesome. In this patch is the ability to close the Grid of Rift completion screen with your close all window keys. I think that needs just a little bit of applause.
Definitely.
I know a lot of people were irked by that, so that's good.
You can now spacebar the Rift screen.
Thank the heavens. And then that's about it. There's a change to the social button. It shows you how many friends you have online, clan or community notifications. I noticed it's like a little thing that's less pervasive at the bottom now, which is cool. And that's about it for that patch. Nothing too major.
No, this one was really just like a small little one for bug fixes.
Yep.
Yep. So not too much to go through and say here on this one. I know, what was it in either last episode or the episode before last? I remember getting some of the responses from people in the chat that was like, there's a PTR, yeah.
Yep, there was, and it was mostly kind of under the radar because there wasn't really a lot to test or go in and look at there, so no one was really making a big deal out of it. And here we are.
And yeah, here we are. So hopefully now that this is done, we'll hear some more about 2.3 coming up. Maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Maybe. Now we wait.
2.2.2.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I like the idea of a lot of twos.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we shall see.
2.2.2. The second coming.
All the twos too.
Yep. All the twos. Going from there, not really so much news, but I guess one of the only other things that we kind of picked up as kind of like an undercurrent in the community, there's been a lot of talk about people complaining about the death timers in Rifts.
Yep, that's been a continual thing. I think, obviously a softcore only problem, but it's been...
I don't know. That res timer in hardcore is killer.
That's true, they could lower that, right?
Yeah.
All jokes aside, it has been a thing that's been bandied about because originally the reason why it was an incremental penalty for dying inside of the same rift was to kind of prevent players from, being in rifts that maybe they weren't supposed to be in or maybe just aren't ready for. Or obviously there are instances that happen, you just get bad packs because of RNG too, so you're going to die a lot. But it's kind of just like to de-incentivize you, I guess. And also the reason why it happens to your character and not the bar It's because they didn't want to hurt the feeling of multiplayer when you have that one person that keeps dying and he's just adding more and more time to your bar.
And you will run into that one guy in public games that goes in with 0 toughness and runs into molten arcane beams just to screw over other people.
For sure.
And that's like one of those things that you just have to face those people. I was just playing a Heroes game this weekend where 3 of the people like went AFK immediately at the start of the match, and it was just like, you guys can just come back to the core now because we're not going to play.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, seriously? It was like first day of open beta, and it was just, seriously.
That's bad, man.
Yeah.
It's always annoying when you have players that just don't want to play the game the way it's supposed to be played. But yeah, I don't know. I've seen all sorts of solutions for this death timer thing thrown around. Like, people want there to be an option for either taking a res or adding the penalty to the bar, or waiting for the res timer to expire, because then it kind of allows what they're calling the upper echelon of greater rift groups or whatever, to actually, I guess not math it out, but make concessions as to, okay, are we going to stop DPS in order to res this one person? Is the support character going to go and get the res? Like, oh, maybe we're too close to wiping, just go ahead and take the thing. Or, oh, well, we have extra time, so just take the time. Or, it adds more player choice to it, as opposed to just the player sitting there watching the screen. And I guess that's probably the biggest concern right now in the rumblings of the community, is that it's just a waste of actual time when people just want to play the game. So, I don't know. I feel like this has been a never-ending problem of how to make death matter in softcore. Because, we saw, let's talk about more vanilla stuff. We saw it move from being basically no penalty to, okay, now you have crazy repair costs. And this was back when gold was very scarce. You were trying to save gold to go get auction house stuff, but then you had to spend it every time you died, basically. And then they lowered the repair cost quite a bit. They lowered the amount of durability loss that you would get from just normal wear and tear.
They also took away the res timer.
That's right. That's right.
At the beginning, you had a scaling res timer, and then they took that away, so you just always were able to res after 5 seconds.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. So we've seen it go all over the map, and it seems like maybe they still haven't quite hit the target. I don't know what the answer is here, because it's not a major concern to me, but I do feel for the players that experience this quite often. So how do you fix it? I'm not quite sure, but maybe that's something to consider with the retooling of Greater Rifts once Perma CC is released once Perma CC is no longer a thing.
Yeah, because that is one of those that the devs want death to be a penalty. If you're dying a lot, you should be penalized for not being able to do it. But at the same time, is the penalty too high at the moment? One of the threads that I came across, it was just, it totaled up there. They got into a really bad scenario, and just trying to get away, in order to get out of the rift or restart or reset the combination of elites that they had gotten into, and they were a couple minutes in, just trying to res and run away. So it's just, I don't know. I really don't know. And like you, it's not something I actually have a lot of experience with, because it's been a very long time since I played softcore. So, I don't know. Maybe if they stretched it out, so that way it wasn't every time that you died, it added 5 seconds. Maybe it's every 3 deaths, the counter goes up by 5 seconds or something along those lines.
Yeah, I could see that. And yeah. I know one popular request too is after you pass the 15 minutes, you're just not going to make it to remove it, so there is no penalty after that. Yeah,
that actually, I guess that would depend on how hard that is to code, but that seems like a great way of doing it. So at that point, well, I'm not going to make it anymore. The penalty really doesn't mean anything. I just want to finish clearing it and get my gym upgrades.
Right. And outside of adding a forfeit option, which I remember that was thrown around as an idea early in the Greater Rifts iteration, and I think that was met with a very solid no, we don't want to add anything like that. So maybe that's the compromise there.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Yeah,
changes are coming. So who knows if that'll be something that gets passed over.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see. And this is one of those ones that I'll be interested in seeing what the devs come up with and what the community reaction will be to their proposed changes, if they have anything planned at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure most because it's like one of those ones. It's really funny, and we said this many episodes ago when we were talking about it. Rifts are no longer the topic anymore. Or not rifts, trials are no longer the topic anymore because everyone knows it's going away.
Yeah.
So now you have all these other little things that were much lower concerns. They're much lower on the totem pole of problems. But now you have all these other things that are coming up because, well, we all know trials are going away, so we don't need to complain about it anymore. So this is the next thing. But, as the devs are still working on that first problem, so, when are they going to get around to the next one? And, what I would like to see kind of what the devs have on their whiteboard, like their list of concerns for the game, what they're, focusing the development time and their thoughts and energy on.
Yeah, and I feel like that's one thing that we probably won't get clear insight into until some of this like coming features, coming attractions get their reveals. We keep talking about if there's going to be an expansion and when that's going to be revealed. E3, Gamescom, and also just we know for certain that there's a big content patch coming with all the sets for the classes that didn't get them and Ruins of Sescheron and things like that. So. I mean, some of that stuff is out there already, like the Ruins of Sescheron and whatnot, so there's not a lot to reveal there. But, like, once they kind of open the lid on, yes, we are making an expansion, I feel like then the next Tavern Talk after that is going to be the most interesting thing we've seen because they'll be able to maybe a little bit talk about what is on that whiteboard, what are some of the things that they hope to address with that expansion release. And, maybe some of that will trickle into a patch or two beforehand, but I think maybe some of the biggest problems are going to be resolved in a major release like that.
Yeah, that is what we're all kind of looking forward to. When are they going to start talking about 2.3? In earnest. When are we going to see these Tavern Talks? When will we be seeing the patch previews or a PTR?
PTR, yeah, like we were saying before the show.
Yeah, because if they are going to do a PTR for it, if this is only going to be a 4-month season, we probably won't see a PTR for it for at least another 3 weeks. 2 months out from the end of the season. And I imagine hopefully we'll be seeing some more discussion about it before we get a PTR for it. So anytime soon.
Yeah, and I keep throwing out the idea too. I just don't want there to be like this like super concentration. Like, yes, the next patch will be the big 2.3, because they could always go the route of 2.2.2, and that coincides with season 4, and then we're still gonna have to wait until like season 5 or so. Maybe it's a short season 4, like we saw with season 2. And then season 5 is the huge, like, here's the rest of those sets and stuff. So, don't assume that the next patch will be the big patch.
Yep, we could get the season 4, another little like kind of like micro patch with like a 2-month season, and it's like, oh, we went back and we reworked Invoker's Helltooth, Shadow's Mantle, those sets, and so here's just like a little tiny content thing, and then we've got 2 more months, and then we'll actually do 2.3 with season 5.
Yeah,
it is a definite possibility.
It waits to be seen, just like the show title.
Yeah,
right.
We're in a holding pattern, which is one of those other things. It's and I guess maybe just I didn't really include it in the show notes, but maybe just to be mentioned that E3 is coming up in a couple of weeks. It is the I looked this up before the show. It was like the 16th to the 18th.
Yeah, I think that was right. Or was it the 30th? I feel like maybe you said the 30th. I'm just going to look it up right now. Keep talking.
It ends the 18th. I know that.
Oh, okay, there you go.
It ends the 18th.
So that's the 16th.
June. 16th to the 18th. And they're doing, like, for the very first time, one of the big things with E3 is all the big console manufacturers would have a press conference like the day or the 2 days before E3, but now E3 themselves is putting together like a PC conference to kind of coincide with all the big console news releases. And Blizzard is one of the ones that's slated to talk during it. Could we see maybe something about Diablo then and there? I don't know. I think that they probably would not be making like a huge announcement there for an expansion. They're probably wanting to go and talk more about like Overwatch or Heroes of the Storm, which would have just released like 2 weeks prior.
Mm-hmm. Get those hype trains and those advertising campaigns and whatnot moving.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at such a wide audience too, because they can capture some of that console spillover, get players on their PC stuff.
Yeah, and it's just so weird, seeing Blizzard back at E3 because they kind of, abstained from doing it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those ones they didn't really need to while subscriptions were always climbing. So that I guess now with like the WoW subscriptions kind of finding their kind of best guess like balancing point at around 7 million subscribers. Maybe they're just trying to leverage different marketing to expand upon, to get the different franchises out and such.
I mean, it's an interesting time for Blizzard too, because like we kind of started out talking about, they have a console presence with Diablo on the console now, so they kind of have a taproot into that audience, and so who's to say even that Overwatch will always be a PC game?
Yeah, it could very well be a console as well.
Right. So, that could be kind of like, here's the breeding ground of seeing how much interest we can get for people to come from console to PC. And if there is that crossover, can we eventually, reverse and go the other direction and put them, because you see Call of Duty do well. And that's another like Activision thing too. So, it could be right in line with what they're thinking for their stakeholders and whatnot to push that envelope.
Yeah.
So more speculation, more just wait and see. We're running slim on time with all of the crazy feedback that we have, so I think we should move into that section, but we should also caveat it with we may not get to everything, but then there's always next week, because we'll be here.
We will be here. We're not going anywhere.
That's right. So I think we'll jump right in. Again, if you guys want to contribute to this upcoming section, feedback and items of the week, we do have our email account. It's westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. You can also tweet at us at the WM Workshop. We love to hear from you any which way that you get in contact with us, and we always appreciate whatever you have to say or send. So go ahead and do it. All right.
Oh, let's see. This week we had quite a few questions about Demon Hunters.
Yes.
I'm gonna kind of rapid fire some of these. We got 2. One from we got one from Alex, and then another one. Where was it? Another one from Geoff that both kind of asked a very similar question in regards to the Natalia set and how the Obsidian Zodiac ring worked. And, it is something that the effect does stack between, the Natalia set piece bonus, which every time that you use a spender or generator, it will has a chance of reducing the cooldown by 2 seconds of your Reign of Vengeance. The Obsidian Zodiac ring will also, can also reduce the cooldown of Reign of Vengeance. It is something that you can do, and it will help you get that Crashing Rain proc out more often, but you would be better off running Focus and Restraint. Yeah, it's one of those ones that it definitely is something that you can do. It can work, but it's just not as good as some of your other alternatives of like going through and using an Obzod with a Ring of Royal Grandeur and like a Cinder Coat and some other things like that. It is just not worth it compared to just using a Focus and Restraint.
It almost reminds me, just for a quick digression, of some of those battles that I used to have with a friend over one-handers versus two-handers, and like when you would use one or the other. Because if you think about Focus and Restraint, it's a huge damage multiplier. So it's just going to make that Crashing Rain and your Reign of Vengeance hit like a truck, right? And then what the Obzod does is essentially allow you to cast it more often, perhaps, if you're, bringing it off of cooldown faster than you might otherwise. But it's not going to hit as hard. So it's almost the same as if saying, I'm going to use a one-hander because I'll have more resources. I'll be able to stack resources up faster because I have a better attack speed for a generator. But when I spend, it's not going to hit as hard. So it's kind of like weighing those two options. And almost always, at least we see it now for sure with two-handers, there are only very few niche builds they're using one-handers right now. you're much better off just hitting hard and finding other ways to mitigate the resources.
Mm-hmm. And Geoff also had a particular question that, his Demon Hunter is more of a side project, so he's still going through and trying to get a whole bunch of emeralds for it. And I guess he's got, he's using a whole bunch of upgraded emeralds on his, barbarian's weapons, his witch doctor's weapon, and so he doesn't have enough at the moment in order to have two of the flawless royals for his two one-handers for his Nats build on his Demon Hunter. And so right now he's using a ruby and an emerald for his weapons. And one of his questions, you definitely, if you don't have two emeralds to put in both of the weapons, or even just a slightly upgraded emerald to put in place of the ruby, because the difference is between them is really high. The ruby would be better off in the main hand, because the main hand is the only one that matters in terms of damage for a Nats build. But even putting in like a like a non-royal, like an imperial, flawless imperial emerald would probably be better than a flawless royal ruby, in your main hand.
Yeah, just because critical damage is that good.
It really is that good, especially above 40% critical hit chance like you have. Mm-hmm. And then his other question was just, he has a really good ancient Balefire caster, and he wants to know, should he roll the cooldown reduction or the damage percentage? Since it's going to be your main hand, go ahead and put the damage percentage, the 10% damage percentage on it, just to get even more out of it. That will be a little bit better, especially since you want to use it between both your Nats and your Unhallowed Essence. It's fine to use the 10% damage percentage on it, because you do want to leverage the damage on your main hand as much as you possibly can for this build. And you can get the extra cooldown reduction on your Nat Slayer. And should you ever get a better Nat Slayer to put into your main hand, you can always roll the damage percentage back into a cooldown reduction if you want to.
Makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. I think there was one more.
Yes, the one from Tags.
Yep, there's this one here from Tags that he sent in Ancient Spines of Seething Hatred. And it was more... And he just wants to know what he should be going and re-rolling on this particular weapon here. I guess if you play hardcore, I would probably re-roll something like the Impale into Vitality. If you're not if you're not going to be rolling hardcore that much, it depends on what you want to use it for. Obviously, it's not the best when it comes to the Unhallowed Essence build, unless you are playing non-seasonal. If you're non-seasonal, this actually isn't that bad, and I would re-roll the health load percentage into Discipline for an Unhallowed Essence build. If you are seasonal, you have the Dead Man's Legacy, so it doesn't matter as much, but if you want to try re-rolling the Impale damage into a different skill damage, whatever your main skill is, but that can get extremely expensive.
Yes, it can.
Because you have so many properties to go through and re-roll. If it's just going to be something that you're going to be using, this item would be fine, for an Unhallowed Essence build, and just re-rolling the Health Globe into Discipline wouldn't be too bad, no matter how you want to go through and do it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think it's probably safe to say that at some point you'll be replacing it with a more useful quiver, like you were kind of mentioning, especially the differences between season on season, notwithstanding. But yeah, if you kind of just treat it as like a starter quiver for your Unhallowed, then putting that Discipline is going to be one of the best things you could do to get out of it. Mm-hmm. Get utility out of it.
Yep. I'm also being told that it's not Geoff, it's just Joff.
It's I guess it's a British Geoff is like the British way to say it or spell it.
Yep, but then I'm saying Geoff just because there's In Control, the big StarCraft person. He pronounces his name Geoff.
Oh, and he spells it that way. Interesting.
Yep. So, yeah.
Who knows? Different strokes for different Geoffs or Jeffs.
Yep.
All right. Was that all we had on the DH stuff? Ready to move?
Yeah, we can go through and move on.
Cool, cool. I've got one here from...
And now someone else is telling me that's pronounced Jeff.
Who knows? I've got one from Ed, which I think is how you pronounce that.
I think so. The only other way that you can pronounce that is Eid.
Eid. So. It must be Eid, like Edia. It's short for Edia. Or is it Adia? Oh, gosh. Let's not go down this well.
I said Adia. And she is actually the current event in Final Fantasy Record Keeper, if you haven't noticed.
Ooh. There you go. Sup, fellas? Someone wrote in to ask about raid cores this season, and I thought I would share my experience. So yes, last episode we were talking about focus and restraint, using it with raid core, and if you could leverage both of the ring's abilities, powers, because you would be treating the Furious Charge as your generator, and then, you know, throwing out like Ancient Spear or something as your, pardon me, as your spender. So he says, he started his Barb this season, and all that he got to draw from him was raid cores as his first set, so we decided to go with it. He doesn't have the details in front of him because he was writing this from work. He says, shh, so I'm sorry. I just got you fired, maybe. If your boss listens to this podcast, you're done for it. Although he doesn't know what your name is because we maybe mispronounced it, so there you go. But he says he thinks that he's running 5-piece raid core and 2-piece IK, which sounds like it would be right. Focus and restraint, Vile Ward, Strong Arm Bracers, Hellfire Ami. The charge does proc the generator half of the focus and restraint, so now we know on that. And he's using Boulder Toss to take care of the other half, and he's getting some life per Fury on it as well. Yada yada yada. Fury is awesome because you get a ton of it with whatchamacallit. Wow, sorry. You get a lot of Fury with Furious Charge, and then you spend a ton of it with Boulder Toss, so it's like a really nice yin and yang, and then of course Focus and Restraint plays off of that as well. But he says that it became mind-numbingly boring on bosses because you actually get starved on Fury, and it's hard to keep Focus and Restraint rolling. He's running around in circles and just letting his ancients end up killing stuff, or killing the boss and the dots also. That's not his fantasy of how he plays the Barb, so he didn't like it that much. Went over to Spin to Win and is now loving it, and then when he gets bored, he'll go back to raid core. So there you go. Answers the previous question and also gives us a little insight into Ed's barbarian life.
Yeah. And I just want to go through and point out a suggestion here in chat from Dainty. If you can't pronounce something, just rename it Ogchilds.
There it is.
I like it.
So Ogchilds sent in that last one.
Yep.
Perfect.
Perfect. Can't do better. This one is actually sent in by Jeff.
Are you sure?
I think so. I think so. I think it's Jeef. Jeef, yeah.
Choosy moms choose Jeef.
He just has one question. How the hell do you avoid thunderstorm? That is all. The answer is pray. Stack lightning resist.
Was Zephyrian Amulet?
Yeah, or going with the Zephyrian Amulet to absorb the lightning damage. Unfortunately, yeah, there's not a lot that you can do to avoid thunderstorm. You're going to be hit by it, you know, at least once. It's how many additional hits from it that you take is the only thing that's really under your control, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
It is literally there to hit you. It's one of the affixes that the developers have designed that is essentially unavoidable. Kind of similar with Frozen, definitely similar with Jailer. At range characters have such an advantage over melee because they get exposed to way fewer affixes, and assuming that they can kill things before they get to them, right? So as long as you're keeping your distance, then something like Electrified isn't going to bother you as much as a ranged class. I can't even think of others, but yeah, so you need affixes in there to kind of gear check and check the range classes as well. So that's why you have things like Jailer that kind of instantly hit you, things like Thunderstorm that instantly hit you. And I know it's been something that people have complained about quite a bit. One of the hopes that I've seen thrown around in the forums is that with the removal of perma CC in Greater Rifts, because as the difficulty spikes up, that's when you're really starting to see the detriment of those instant hits because they come instant one-shots. So people are hoping that when perma CC goes away, they bring the damage down, and then that means Thunderstorm and Jailer are a little bit easier to deal with. But I highly doubt that they will ever be fully avoidable.
Yeah, no, definitely not. That's part of the design development going into Reaper of Souls was to increase the amount of unavoidable damage, so that way the intent was it was kind of like a scaling damage. So that way you always had constant damage going on you, so you had to build defensively, and you had to have some sort of regen mechanism. So you actually had to be aware of the incoming damage and have something to fight against it, so that way not everyone was just going and glass cannoning it. Unfortunately, the scaling went too high, and so there's no reason to not glass cannon unless you're hardcore, because no matter how much you stack, you'll never be able to keep up with the damage coming in.
That's right.
So it was one of those ones that's just always the scales will never be fully tuned. I'm sure they'll drop the damage, there'll be more power creep, people will jump up 20 greater rifts, and then kind of run into the same scenario. It's always going to be that constant juggle. I guess, it's one of those ones that's like, what should be the limiter in a rift? Should it be the amount of damage that you can do in order to clear it within 15 minutes, or should it be you get to the point where it's just too much damage and you die too much, or in hardcore you die, period, stop, before you can complete it?
Yeah, I'm curious to see kind of where things level out and what we can do from there, and how much of the control comes to the player's hands, and how much of it is just you're kind of screwed if you find bad affixes.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to grab one more. Maybe we can do one more each, and then head to items of the week.
Sure.
Okay. So I have one here, and this is something that has actually been on my mind because I've been getting a lot of PMs and questions and things about this in game. So let's talk about it. We're talking about the Gogok of Swiftness, and this is a message that's coming in from. I keep laughing every time because there's a funny image I was sent with this as well. But Andres sent in a question regarding the Gogok, and he wants to know essentially how it works. And the specific question is, he's on his barb, and he doesn't know if the gem is taking any of his effects on his abilities into account. And he wants to know how the CDR bonus applies when he's activating skills, or when he's in the middle of skills or middle of cooldowns and whatnot. So basically, we're kind of talking about snapshotting here, and it still exists to some degree in the game right now. One of the main things that people are talking about is pain enhancer with barbs, because the second part of that is monsters that are affected by the pain enhancer give you, within a certain radius around your character, give you an increase in attack speed. And because there are breakpoints in that build, you can actually then have better output on your whirlwinds, better output on your ancients, and you would actually snapshot it. So you would, as that attack speed is at its most increased level, you would start your whirlwind up, and now you're benefiting from that. So even when the attack speed buffs from the gem fall off, you're still benefiting from it on your whirlwind as long as you don't stop that whirlwind. And it's kind of effective if you're not using the rend part of the set of the Wrath of the Waste, because then you technically shouldn't stop whirlwinding. But if you are using rend, it's not something that's a major concern, so you don't have to worry about it as much. So there's going to be a differentiation of playstyles there. But in regards to specifically the Gogok of Swiftness, the benefit from it starts on activation of the cooldown. So what I'm saying there is, let's say that, make the numbers really easy, right? So this isn't the case, but like, let's say you have 20% cooldown and you have a 10-second skill. That means, or 10-second cooldown skill. That means right at the 20% mark, it's now an 8-second cooldown. Let's say your Gogok would then go up and give you 50%. I just want to make the math really easy so I don't get it wrong. It's not going to give you that much of a bonus though. So let's say with Gogok fully stacked up, you're up to 50% cooldown. So then as soon as you activate that skill, again, the cooldown will now be 5 seconds. But if you were to get those stacks up in the middle of that cooldown, it doesn't suddenly drop seconds in the middle of it. It would only then change after you activate it for the next time it checks your cooldown reduction. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a confusing thing, especially because if you're like actively watching your like character sheet and you're seeing, hey, my CDR is going up, but my skills aren't cooling down any faster, it could put some weird like interplay between what you see and what you think should happen. But that's just kind of one of the things of when it checks for the bonuses that you have.
Yeah. And that, going through and mentioning about that with like the snapshotting does make me wonder, when they'll fully remove all snapshotting from the game.
I wonder if it's just like they have to go case by case basis because just certain skills are built a certain way.
I think it really is, because it's something that they slowly have been going through and doing. You know, is like just removing that in any instance where a build kind of hinges or is built around breakpoints of going in and changing something, so that way it doesn't work like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure that has to be somewhere on that, you know, that priority list on the whiteboard of going and removing those like last few outliers.
That famous whiteboard.
Yeah, that famous whiteboard. Do you want to show the picture that he sent in?
Should we?
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone knows that we've been going back and forth on Jar Jar Binks, and when I was on the Shattered Soulstone, I mentioned jokingly that Jar Jar Binks is Nineball's favorite character, and of course he didn't take very kindly to that. So then Andres, to kind of keep things going here, sent in this lovely image. God, I love it. To which Nineball had an actual reply. It's a lovely YouTube video.
Yeah. I think I'll go through those that don't follow me on Twitter or might have missed it. I came across this. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat here.
There you go.
For everyone to go through and partake in.
So yes, the Jar Jar Binks war continues.
Yep.
Okay, you want to grab one more feedback, and then we'll hit items of the week before we cause you any more pain?
Yeah. This is pretty much over now for me. All right, there is one more that I do want to go through and touch on. This one comes from longtime listener, active member in the clan, Shepard. Everybody knows and loves Shepard. Who doesn't love Shepard?
Everyone.
Everyone. This one is just one of his ideas that he came across because he feels that he always likes leveling up like two of a character. So he has one that he builds for speedrunning T6 rifts and another one geared up for tackling the highest grade of rift that he can do. And his idea was just some way to help facilitate that is having a squire. So like adding in some sort of NPC into the game, sticking it like kind of close to your stash, and it saves a gear set and build for you. So that way you can go talk to it and then instantly change gear and skills. So you can pre-select something in there, so you can quickly, you know, switch between 2, 3, 4 different set and build combos, depending upon what it is that you want to do. You know, obviously, thankfully, trials are being removed, so that's not one thing that you need to specifically gear for anymore. But, you know, a lot of people will have a different build set up for running T6 than they will, you know, Greater Rift 50.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an interesting idea of just allowing some sort of like little gear swap there to make it easier to transition in between different game types. Or even something, you know, you have a build different between group play and solo. That, you know, obviously, if I'm going to go through and play in a group setting, I feel a lot more comfortable playing on Hollowed Essence than I do Natalia's when I'm playing in a group, just because at that point, you know, I can just kind of shoot and do damage at things. I don't have to kind of gauge of, you know, kind of dropping the Rain of Vengeance on a mob that's about to die anyways, just so I can get the buff up.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think Dread Scythe was one of the people also behind a similar idea to this, like, it would also be another way to potentially alleviate stash space problems, because if the gear, like, I guess there's two ways to approach it, right? Maybe this is a thing that just remembers an outlay that you have, or an outfit of gear and settings that you have. And I guess, I think it's too complicated, because I wanted to say, like, maybe it would check to see if you still have the items that you set it up for originally. So like you still need to have like those diamonds that you put in the chest and whatnot for it to like go through and make the change on your character. But it would make way more sense for it to just be another place that exists where you stash that actual gear, with the diamonds, with whatever it comes with, and then you just do the quick one button swap, just to alleviate kind of like, oh, you're missing, you can't wear these pants because you disenchanted them like 8 months ago or something.
Yep. But now the one big question is, what happens when you die in hardcore?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So do you lose the Squire's gear?
Yeah, because I would imagine that the Squire would be tied directly to the character. So that way, when I log onto a Demon Hunter, I'm not looking at my Barbarian set. That would be one of those ones that, if it's tied to the character, should you lose that when you die in hardcore?
I mean, hardcore is hardcore.
Yeah, it is.
It's up to you to use it. I feel like if that was the case, I just wouldn't use it, to be perfectly honest with you.
This is true. You wouldn't. It's like, that's okay. I'll take the extra 2 minutes that it takes to swap out my gear set and skills.
For sure.
And then you just kind of look at the Squire every time that you log in and be like, damn, I wish I could use that. But no. No. Right? I don't want to lose 2 gear sets.
That's true living on the edge.
I lost 2 gear sets.
Moment of silence for Nineball.
Yep.
All right, your moment is over. We've
mourned
that death.
Over. We got to move on. We got more items and no time.
That's right. All right, real quick, blast through items of the week. Thank you guys. For those who didn't get their feedback ready, probably will have it read next week. No worries. Keep sending them in. We'll get to them. Items of the week, super quick. Let's dive in. We got an ancient furnace to start things off because we have to.
Keep them coming.
Keep them coming. This one comes from Kangax, and it's an ancient furnace, 4,459.7 DPS. He rerolled a 10% of fix on there to boost that up. It's also benefiting from a 7% attack speed bonus and 1,281 intelligence on there. Ronald McDonald Happy Meal to get a socket with some crit from the gem and a 42% increased damage against elites and secondary of some monster kill, granting extra experience. On we go. We also had another one coming from Kangax, which is actually his Talrash's Allegiance, an ancient one at that, and it rolled super well. It's got 942 intelligence, a natural 100% critical hit damage roll on there, which is crazy. Critical hit chance, yes. Critical hit chance of 8%, so it kind of balanced out there. You got the highest and then the lowest, but I think you picked the right ones to get the highest and the lowest on. And then he rerolled a socket onto there. It's using a super high level gem of efficacious toxin. That's crazy. Secondaries are 188, 68, 100, I don't know. Fire resistance, a lot of it, and then reduce the duration of control impairing effects by 35%. So thank you, Kangax, for that double submission.
I just want to mention one thing about the screenshot, if I may.
Sure.
They're Paragon 706, but they're using the original portrait.
That's so hipster.
Yeah, that's not even hipster. I think that's just classy. They like the nice base minimalist. They don't need all the fancy frills.
I don't need no stars to validate me.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Moving on to another amulet. We have a Mara's Kaleidoscope from a guy who styles himself as Old Blighty. I'm not sure if he wanted the old included in there, but I decided to go with it. Old Blighty.
Might as well.
Right? He's got a all-purpose Mara's Kaleidoscope here because he rolled off the main stat for some fire skills increased damage by 20%, or fire skills are increased their damage by 20%, because I can read. 91% critical hit damage, 9 critical hit chance. 9. A natural socket came with it as well, and then for the secondaries, reduced damage from melee attacks by 7%, super useful. And then of course the poison immunity that Mara's grants. This is a super awesome Mara's Kaleidoscope, and I want to guess that maybe it's being used for a DH. Because fire.
Because fire, yeah.
And unhallowed, but maybe not, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Could also be on the popular Crusader Fire Roland's build, and they of course would benefit a ton from the poison immunity because they have to stick right in the crap of it with veracity and mobs like that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, we're moving along. We have another amulet, it's a Hellfire amulet this time around from Scuds, and it's an awesome one. It's got, because I'm blind, I just need to blow this up real quick, 675 strength, rerolled for a perfect 100% critical hit damage. Critical hit chance increased by 10% as a natural roll, and a natural socket on there as well. How come I don't see Hellfire amulets like this? Whatever, man. Lucky.
Yeah, that is I don't know. That makes me insanely jealous.
Right? This is insane. And of course, the passive that we can't pass up is Weapons Master passive, which is super useful because almost every build of Barb is going to be using it. So you just throw this on and that's your amulet. You're done. Four free passives after that. And the monster kills grant 188 experience. Take it or leave it, but it's there. Next up.
I just like the response in chat. It's photoshopped.
Must be.
It must be.
We're continuing with sweet Barb items. This one's from Mad Hamster. It's
someone Bonafide is going to screenshot it and paste it in their profile just to pretend that it's theirs.
I like it. Do whatever it takes to get one, even if you don't actually get it. We have an ancient IK Boulder Breaker coming in from Mad Hamster, continuing our Barb item suite. This one is 4,559.3 DPS. He rerolled a 10% damage affix on here, and I remember he actually sent in progress emails on this because he was low on blues. Speaking of your all blue realm that you want to throw into the game, he was looking for that arcane dust, so he finally got it and was able to get the 10%. So congrats on that. 1,388 strength, increase attack speed by 7%, which again is pretty useful for Barbs for hitting those breakpoints on attack speed. And then his Call the Ancients actually rolled a little low, unfortunately, 47% increased damage for them. The pretty much useless secondary of level requirement reduction and ignores durability loss. Neither of those are really doing much for you, but you take what you get.
I remember when you used to get a little bit excited about that reduced level requirement in a weapon because it just helped out the leveling experience that much more. And then Gem of V's came along
and ruined it.
Yeah.
Yep. And let us not forget Ronald McDonald on this sucker to make it happy and throw that socket on there. Alright, I think we have a few more here. We have a Sultan of the Blinding Sand. Yes, I did want to highlight this. The person that submitted it is Stephen Rundle. Thank you for submitting it. Ancient Sultan of Blinding Sand, 4,350.3 DPS. Rerolled a 10% damage affix, 1,455 strength. It has reduced resource cost by 8%. Goes up to 10 on weapons. And his secondary is one of the main properties that comes with this is the crazy amount of chance to blind. He got almost a perfect roll of 38.3%. That one goes up to 40. And of course, we were just talking about it, level requirement reduction on here as well. So not quite as good. And then Ronald McDonald on here for that socket. But the reason I want to point this out, he's using it on his Crusader, and he's using it for his Roland's build. And I think it's really cool that a weapon like this can actually be used in the Roland's build, because right now, or sorry, not right now, but in previous seasons, it was like furnace or bust, you know? You needed that. And of course, like a furnace is probably going to be better eventually, but it's not like you're actually hurting all that much from not having that specific weapon for this build. You just need a really good two-hander with tons of damage on it, and actually having like resource cost reduction is huge because that's going to allow you to spam up more shield bashes. And having the blind is actually pretty useful too, because that set does tend to kind of have a weak moment or point if you drop your Iron Skin or if you fall out of Akrat's champion. So it's nice to have that extra CC there.
Yeah, just some way, because that is kind of a squishy build even for a Crusader.
But the Crusader is Steven's side project, and he actually plays some DH, and he's got an amazing Balefire caster here. It's Ancient, 3,102.4 DPS. Reroll base damage to get that number up. He's got 19% fire skills, increased damage, 922 dex, reduce resource cost by 9%, 10 max discipline on the secondary, and 1.8 chance to freeze, and a Ronald McDonald Happy Meal for the socket. So this is being used for Unhallowed Essence, of course, and that's kind of one of the things that we talk about, right? Like you can go two directions with your Balefire.
Yeah, so yeah, this is definitely nice for the Unhallowed Essence build. Yeah, because you got the fire there for Arsenal, and then you have the max discipline roll on it naturally, so that's great. I imagine probably since he re-rolled the base damage, I imagine that it probably just rolled really low. For that to be the one, as opposed to turning like the resource cost reduction into damage percentage.
Right. And then to round things off, an item that's sure to make every Demon Hunter jelly an ancient Crider shot that just rolled so sweet. You'll be seeing it soon, Nineball, and I'm waiting for your tears.
Yeah.
It's got 3,481.2 DPS, and this was submitted by Pedro, by the way, so thank you, Pedro. 9% damage affixed inherently on there, 934 dex inherently on there, and actually rerolled an affix to get the attack speed up to 7% on this. 12 max discipline, which is max.
Yeah.
And elemental arrow generates 3 hatred, and of course Ronald McDonald.
Yep. That is a thing of beauty. It is kind of sad that it only rolled the 3 hatred as opposed to 4.
Yeah. Might as well salvage.
Yeah, I would probably turn that attack speed into like a resource cost reduction.
I wouldn't, because the variation on this for the Unhallowed Essence is that Ball Lightning pretty much becomes your damage dealer. So you're only using multi-shot to proc the other side of focus and restraint.
Yeah.
So you actually don't need a lot of hatred being generated, and you could even switch like from the bat on your companion to like the wolf or something like that, because you're just doing your free Ball Lightnings. And if you rearrange everything properly, because you kind of almost need a different looking set of Unhallowed Essence for this, because you don't need resource cost reduction anymore. But if you set it up right, you can get like 800 million crits on your Ball Lightnings, and you know they're always ticking a whole bunch. So you use it with Meticulous Bolts instead of Dead Man's Legacy.
Yeah, true.
And then that's why. Sorry. So to finish that thought, that's why attack speed becomes useful, because you want to spit out as many of those Ball Lightnings as you can. Yeah. So different ways to leverage Unhallowed Essence once you get that crazy Crider.
I am still waiting for mine.
Someday. All right, I'm done. I have no more words. I sped through as many of them as I could.
Yeah, that does in fact wrap us up here.
Yes, indeed, Mr. 9. Take us home. What are we looking forward to? What are we waiting for?
Right now we're waiting for 2.3, I imagine, or at least not the actual patch, but just some information. What are we getting in it? Are we finally getting the runes of Shesharon? I like that word, Shesharon. I can actually say that one correctly.
Say the hardest words properly and the easiest words. You just want to make a challenge of life. I get it.
Ogchilds. That's all I gotta say.
Ogchilds. That's all you need to say.
That's all you need to say.
And that's gonna be my outro too. I'm just gonna Ogchilds. Because
Oddchilds. Yep. Hashtag Oddchilds. We're done. That's it. We're out.
Thank you guys so much. You joined us for episode 51. You stuck with us through to the bitter end, and we appreciate it. Please follow and tune in and do all that good stuff. We're here every Wednesday. Twitch.tv/Leviathan111 for the live recording. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you don't catch it live, you can always go to YouTube. Check out SA Stewart 1 or Blizz Pro. It gets cross-posted to both. If you only like audio, because videos are like way too cool for you or something, then you can check out iTunes and Stitcher. If not, then I don't know. We're working on other mediums to get this to you, but maybe the technology just isn't there yet. Follow on Twitter, SA Stewart 111. That's me. Nineball Gamer. That's Nineball. If you couldn't figure that one out. And the show, of course, has a Twitter, the WM Workshop. Submit items, builds, thrills, skills, whatever your pleasure, to the Westmarch Workshop at blizzpro.com. Join us in-game Westmarch Workshop community. Raid call 644-6420. And that's it. That's all we got for you.
Yeah. Well, you know what we forgot? D2 stream next week.
Oh. Stay tuned.
We'll talk about it next week.